The cold void of space stretches infinitely before them. The air on board the spacecraft hums quietly, a stark contrast to the panic settling into their chest. Commander Lucas Thompson grips the controls tightly, sweat trickling down his forehead, even in the sterile environment. His eyes dart between the flickering screens, each reading more ominous than the last. The transmission was clear, a scream, and then nothing. Only static remains. His heart pounds, but he forces himself to stay calm. "Stay with me, team," Lucas mutters under his breath, knowing no one can hear him. The silence of space is the most suffocating thing he's ever felt. He'd always feared it, the emptiness, the isolation, but now it feels real, like a living thing closing in on them. His thoughts race. What happened? Where is the rest of the crew? He can't afford to panic, not now. Every second is crucial. He pulls up the communication log again, searching for any clue, any signal. There's nothing. The unknown terror they'd been warned about is suddenly all too real. The tension in his chest tightens, and he begins to prepare for what he fears is the worst. Lucas' mind races. The cold reality of space wraps around him like a suffocating blanket. He can feel the isolation seeping in. "Come on, stay focused," he mutters to himself, eyes scanning the flickering screens, searching for any signal that could pull them out of this impending doom. The steady hum of the ship's systems provides a strange comfort, but the unspoken fear in his chest only grows louder. He taps on the control panel, triggering a few emergency sequences. It's all he can do now. His team is silent, the air thick with tension. Every failed attempt to restore communication pulls him deeper into despair. They had prepared for this, hadn't they? Space was supposed to be the final frontier, but it's starting to feel like their tomb. As the seconds pass, he wonders if the others have already accepted their fate. There's only one thing left to do: survive. "We need to hold on, just a little longer," Lucas whispers, more to himself than to anyone else. His eyes lock on the navigation systems. No sign of life, no sign of Earth, nothing. Just them and the stars. The air seems thicker now. The pressure is suffocating, not just from the ship's failing systems, but from the uncertainty of it all. Every noise feels amplified in the silence, and Lucas is acutely aware of every breath he takes. The crew members behind him shift uncomfortably, their eyes cast downward, not daring to speak. In the distance, the stars blink indifferently, as though they could care less about their fate. "We'll get through this," Lucas says, trying to sound confident, but even he knows it's more of a prayer than a promise. He looks back at the silent crew, each one a part of a broken mission. The failure feels personal now. The gravity of their situation presses down on them all. "We're not giving up," Lucas asserts with renewed determination. But his voice falters as his gaze drifts to the blank communication panel. Still nothing. The crew shifts again, exchanging uncertain glances. It's clear they're beginning to doubt his resolve. Lucas glances over his shoulder at the crew, his expression hardening. The weight of the mission, the unknown, presses down on them all. His mind races with thoughts of what could have gone wrong. His fingers tighten around the console, trying to hold on to the last shred of control. "We have to trust the plan," he mutters, though even he struggles to believe it. His thoughts drift to his family back on Earth. The thought of them waiting for a message, wondering what's happening. He can almost hear their voices in the back of his mind. He takes a slow, steadying breath, forcing himself to return to the task at hand. The calm of space is now replaced with a new kind of pressure, and he must push forward. "We're not lost yet," he says with finality, as though trying to convince himself as much as his team. But the quiet uncertainty lingers in the air, like a dark cloud over their heads. As the seconds stretch on, Lucas feels a shift within himself. The weight of responsibility begins to settle deeper into his bones. He's no longer just the commander of a space mission. He's the last line of defense for the lives on board, and the pressure is suffocating. The crew remains silent, each of them processing the situation in their own way. Lucas, however, has no choice but to act. "Prepare for emergency maneuvers," he says, his voice firm despite the knot tightening in his stomach. His mind is focused now, no room for hesitation. He glances at the navigation system, his fingers flying over the controls. A soft beep sounds in the cockpit, and for a fleeting moment, it feels like the smallest victory. But Lucas knows better than to celebrate. One small error could be their last. "This is our only chance," he mutters to himself, hands trembling ever so slightly as he enters the final command. The rest of the crew follows suit, knowing that the time for indecision has passed. The silence in the spacecraft is almost unbearable. The only sounds are the mechanical hums and beeps from the control systems, and the occasional shift of crew members adjusting their seats. Lucas tries to remain composed, but his mind races with the gravity of their situation. Space, which once felt like an exciting frontier, now feels like a prison, cold, vast, and indifferent. The weight of the unknown presses on him. He looks at the crew, each of them tense and distant, their eyes filled with the same fear and uncertainty. "We need to stay focused," Lucas mutters, his voice steady despite the growing panic inside him. "If we can't make contact with Earth, we need to work together, trust each other." His words hang in the air, but the unspoken doubt is palpable. They've all seen the communication logs. There's no sign of help coming. His gaze drifts to the navigation panel, where the faintest glimmer of a distant signal flickers on the screen. It's a sign, a fragile hope. But he knows it's not enough. They need to act fast. "Hold steady," he commands, though even he isn't sure how much longer they can stay in control. The crew members exchange nervous glances. The tension between them is growing, palpable in the cramped space. Lucas can feel it, the subtle crack in their unity. He takes a deep breath, trying to push down the anxiety rising in his chest. "We're in this together," he reminds them again, though his voice is softer this time. His gaze drifts to the navigation screen, still flickering intermittently. It's not enough. Not nearly. The unknown threat that looms outside the ship feels closer than ever, suffocating. They all know it's only a matter of time before they have to make difficult choices. "We don't give up," Lucas asserts, though it feels more like a plea than a command. The quiet murmurs of the crew behind him show the cracks in his resolve. They're not all as sure as he is. Every failed attempt at communication, every technical glitch pulls them further away from hope. But Lucas refuses to let go. "We'll find a way," he whispers to himself, turning back to the controls, his fingers brushing over the display in a futile attempt to stabilize the situation. The darkness outside offers no answers, only more questions. Lucas can feel the pressure building as he scans the instruments, each one more unreliable than the last. He's losing track of time. The world outside the ship is nothing but darkness, and the silence within is maddening. "What's going on?" A voice behind him snaps. It's crew member Sarah Mitchell, 28, female, African-American, short curly hair, wearing a flight suit, her patience clearly running thin. She's the engineer, and if anyone can fix this, it's her. But even Sarah seems to be losing her edge. Lucas turns slowly, meeting her eyes. There's a moment of hesitation, but he can't afford to break now. "We're doing everything we can," Lucas responds, his voice barely masking the doubt in his chest. The tension between them thickens, but Lucas refuses to let it fracture their resolve. "We're getting closer," he says, though deep down he knows the truth. They've been stuck for hours, with no clear plan or path forward. The silence between them grows again. Every minute feels like an eternity. The sudden jolt of the spacecraft pulls Lucas from his thoughts. The ship shakes violently, sending a wave of panic through the crew. "What the hell was that?" Sarah exclaims, her eyes wide with alarm. Lucas reacts instinctively, his hand flying to the controls as he checks the readings. It's not a mechanical failure. Something external has caused the disturbance. The ship shakes again, more violently this time, throwing the crew off balance. The lights flicker, casting eerie shadows across their faces. "Brace for impact," Lucas orders, his voice steady, though his heart races. The crew scrambles to their stations, strapping themselves in as best as they can. Is this the anomaly we've been warned about? Sarah asks, her voice trembling. Lucas doesn't answer. He can't afford to give in to fear. Not now. Not when they're so close to the truth. The ship lurches again, and all Lucas can do is hold on tight, waiting for whatever comes next. The shaking subsides, but the crew is left in stunned silence. The lights return to their dim flickering state, casting an unsettling glow over the cockpit. Lucas checks the instruments once again. There's no explanation, no sign of damage. I don't know what that was, he admits, turning to face his crew. But we need to prepare for the worst. The uncertainty gnaws at him, but he can't let it show. His crew looks to him for guidance, but all he has to offer is uncertainty. Sarah is the first to speak. What's our next move? She asks, her voice steady but still tinged with fear. Lucas hesitates, his mind racing. We move forward, he says, though the words feel hollow. The void of space remains outside, cold and unfeeling. Inside the ship, their fate feels just as uncertain. The silence is broken by an alarm blaring throughout the spacecraft. Lucas jumps, startled by the sudden intrusion, his eyes darting to the screens. What is it? Crew member Sarah Mitchell asks from her seat, her voice trembling. Lucas quickly checks the readings, but they don't make sense. We're experiencing an anomaly, he says, his tone low and controlled, though his heart is racing. The spacecraft lurches again, throwing everyone slightly off balance. Sarah grabs the armrests of her seat to steady herself. What kind of anomaly? She asks, her fear palpable. Lucas can't answer. The readouts are a mess, conflicting data flashing before him. A strange pattern emerges, an unknown force that is tugging at the ship. It's not gravitational, Lucas mutters, still scanning the readings. We're being pulled by something, but it's not registering. The crew exchanges looks, each of them processing this new terror. Their worst fears are realized. They aren't alone. Something else is out there and it's drawing them in. What is that force? Sarah's voice cracks and Lucas can hear the fear creeping into her tone. He doesn't answer at first, his mind racing. I don't know, he admits, frustration lacing his voice. He quickly tries to reroute the energy systems, but it's no use. The anomaly is affecting everything. Power surges, systems malfunctioning. The ship itself seems to be groaning under the strain. Sarah stands from her seat, pacing. We're not going to make it, she says, her eyes wide with panic. Lucas shoots her a sharp look. Don't say that, he warns. We have to stay focused. But even as he says it, he knows there's truth in her words. The unknown force outside is unpredictable, and it's getting stronger. The spacecraft lurches again, this time more violently. The lights flicker, and a low rumble shakes the entire ship. Lucas grips the console tightly, his knuckles white. Hold on, he mutters to himself, wondering how much longer they can endure this. As the ship shakes again, more violently this time, Lucas feels the cold rush of dread seep through his veins. We need to find the source of this, he says, his voice low, almost a whisper. His eyes scan the systems, desperate for any clue. The navigation system is still malfunctioning, but a faint blip catches his attention. He taps the screen, zooming in on the coordinates. There, he says, pointing to the star system ahead. The anomaly is coming from there. We need to investigate. Sarah approaches, her expression skeptical. Are you sure? It looks unstable. Lucas nods, though doubt clouds his own mind. We have no other choice. If we don't understand it, we won't survive. He looks at his crew. Prepare for emergency maneuvers, he orders, his tone decisive. We're going in. The crew members exchange uneasy glances, but there's no turning back. The only path forward is into the unknown. The spacecraft jolts again, throwing everyone forward in their seats. Lucas feels his body slam against the harness, his vision momentarily blurring. Status report, he shouts, his voice commanding, yet strained. Crew member James, 30, male, Caucasian, muscular, with short black hair, wearing a flight suit, quickly taps at the console, his hands trembling slightly. The hull is intact for now, James reports. But the external pressure is increasing. We're losing stability. Lucas nods, his jaw set. Keep us steady. We can't afford to lose control now. The crew works in silence, their every action calculated, the hum of the ship growing louder with the mounting tension. The anomaly is drawing them in, its pull more intense than before. Sarah looks at Lucas, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and resolve. We can't outrun it, she says quietly. Lucas doesn't respond immediately. There's nothing to say. They've reached the point of no return. Lucas knows the next decision could be their last. Prepare for a direct approach, he commands, his voice unwavering despite the fear gnawing at him. The crew works quickly, securing everything for the emergency maneuver. Sarah checks the stability of the ship, her fingers flying over the instruments. Systems are stabilizing, but it won't hold for long, she warns. Lucas nods, his mind focused. We'll make it work, we have no other choice. The tension in the cockpit is unbearable as the crew braces for the next move. The craft's engines hum louder, the sound vibrating through the walls, making everything feel too small. Lucas looks out the window again, eyes narrowing as the anomaly grows larger. All hands, brace for impact, he orders, his voice steely. The ship lurches once more, this time with greater force, as the crew prepares to face whatever awaits them. The tension in the spacecraft reaches a boiling point. Lucas grips the console, his eyes scanning the readings, which are now more erratic than ever. It's pulling us in, he mutters under his breath, his voice thick with disbelief. The crew members exchange uneasy glances, each of them feeling the shift in the air. We can't fight this much longer, crew member Sarah Mitchell, 28, female, African American, says, her voice trembling as she stares at the flickering display. We're stuck. Lucas doesn't answer at first. The uncertainty gnaws at him, but he refuses to show it. His hands move swiftly over the console, trying to make sense of the data. Every part of the ship seems to be in crisis mode now. Well, the engines are overheating, and the system alerts are coming faster than he can process them. We have to find a way out of this, Lucas says, his tone steely, but with an edge of desperation. The crew falls silent, knowing that this is the point of no return. Brace yourselves, Lucas orders, his voice the only thing holding them together. The spacecraft lurches forward, faster this time, and Lucas can feel the pull of the anomaly as if it's trying to tear them apart. The ship lurches again, and Lucas stumbles slightly, steadying himself against the console. What is that thing? Crew member James, 30, male, Caucasian, muscular, with short black hair, says, his voice shaky as he looks out of the window. Whatever it is, it's not something we can control. Lucas replies, his tone low and grim. The anomaly is growing closer now, its unnatural light pulsing rhythmically, as if alive. The readings on the sensors are no help. They're all in the red, flashing warnings and critical errors. We need to make contact with Earth, Lucas says, his voice desperate. We can't be the only ones who know about this. Sarah approaches him, her face etched with concern. Even if we do, what can we say? We're in the middle of whatever this is. Lucas doesn't have an answer. The crew is right. This is bigger than anything they could have prepared for. The anomaly is pulling them in, and they have no way to stop it. Get ready for anything, Lucas says quietly, as he looks once more at the distant glow outside. It's closer now, too close for comfort. The pull of the anomaly is relentless. Lucas feels the pressure mounting, both from the outside force and the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Hold steady, he shouts, though he knows it's futile. The ship is out of control now, moving faster than it should be. The crew members scramble at their stations, trying to keep up with the chaos unfolding around them. We need to stabilize, Sarah says urgently, her fingers flying over the controls. But the ship continues to shake, the warning alarms blaring louder now. I can't stabilize it, she exclaims, frustration evident in her voice. We're being dragged in. Lucas clenches his jaw. Then we have to ride it out, he says, his voice filled with determination. The crew members exchange looks, realizing that this might be their last chance. They're being sucked into something they don't understand, and there's no way to stop it. Get us out of here, Sarah cries out, but Lucas can only watch as the ship is pulled toward the unknown. With a final violent lurch, the spacecraft is jerked forward, throwing the crew into their seats. Lucas holds on tightly, his body braced against the force. The ship is falling toward the anomaly now. Too fast to stop. The hum of the engines is drowned out by the whine of the failing systems. This is it, Sarah says quietly, her voice strained. Lucas doesn't respond, his gaze fixed on the growing light outside. The walls of the cockpit seem to close in on him. We're going to hit it, James yells, panic creeping into his voice. The spacecraft shakes violently once more, and Lucas's heart pounds in his chest. Hold on, he shouts, his grip tightening on the controls. The entire ship groans under the pressure. Lucas knows there's nothing more they can do. The anomaly is going to swallow them whole, and there's no escaping it now. The ship falls into darkness. The lights flicker once more before dying completely, leaving the crew in total blackness. The hum of the ship's systems has stopped. It's quiet now. Too quiet. Is everyone okay? Lucas asks, his voice barely audible. There's no answer at first. Then, Sarah's shaky voice breaks the silence. I'm here, she says. I think we're... Her words trail off as if even she isn't sure what happened. The unknown force outside is gone, but they don't know where they are now. The last thing Lucas remembers is the overwhelming pull of the anomaly, and then everything went black. What happened? James asks. Lucas takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. We're not out of this yet, he says, his voice firm despite the uncertainty. They've survived, but the real test is yet to come. The darkness is suffocating. Lucas blinks, trying to focus as the faint hum of the ship's emergency systems fills the air. They've survived the anomaly, for now. But where are they? The windows reveal nothing but the same infinite blackness they've been trapped in for what feels like eternity. Is anyone else seeing this? Sarah Mitchell asks, her voice shaking as she stares at the unchanging view outside. Lucas stands slowly, his body sore from the strain of the last few hours. We've made it through, he says, though his voice lacks conviction. The unknown force, the anomaly, it's all gone, leaving them suspended in the void. He can't shake the feeling that this is only the beginning. We don't know where we are, Sarah continues, her eyes darting across the control panel. We could be anywhere. Lucas takes a deep breath, his mind racing. We find out where we are, and then we figure out how to get home. He walks slowly to the navigation console, tapping a few buttons. We can't just wait around, not now. The crew watches him, unsure if they should follow his lead, or if they're walking into the unknown. But there's no turning back now. We need to know what's out there, Lucas says, turning to face the crew, his eyes dark with uncertainty. There's something else here, I can feel it. The crew members exchange uneasy glances. What if it's more than just an anomaly? James, the engineer, 30, male, Caucasian, muscular, with short black hair, asks, his voice heavy with doubt. What if there's more to this than we can handle? Lucas looks out the window again, his eyes scanning the endless void. There's no answer. There's nothing to explain it. The pull of the anomaly is gone, but the feeling of being watched is growing stronger. We're not alone, Lucas mutters, more to himself than to anyone else. Sarah takes a deep breath and steps forward. We need to start moving, she says, her voice steady but filled with determination. Lucas nods, though doubt still lingers in the back of his mind. We move toward the nearest star system. It's our only option. The silence that follows is thick, and the crew knows that once they make that decision, there's no turning back. As the crew moves into action, Lucas feels the weight of responsibility settling on him more heavily than ever. He can see the uncertainty in the eyes of his team, but he can't afford to show weakness. We stay together, he says firmly, his voice steady, though the doubt in his chest grows with every passing second. Whatever happens, we don't let go. Sarah starts checking the systems, her hands moving quickly over the console as she runs diagnostics. Engines are stable, she reports, but her voice lacks confidence. For now. The silence that follows is deafening, filled only by the soft hum of the spacecraft. Lucas knows they can't keep moving without more information. We need to understand what happened, he says, turning back to Sarah. We need to know if there are any other ships out here, if there's anyone else. Sarah hesitates but nods. I'll try to get a signal, she says, but even she knows it might be useless. Just stay focused, Lucas urges. We'll find a way. The sound of Sarah's voice breaks the silence. I've got something, she says, her voice tentative but filled with a glimmer of hope. Lucas quickly moves to her side, leaning over her shoulder as she types rapidly on the console. A faint signal appears on the screen, but it's weak, distorted. It's not much, but it's something, Sarah says, trying to stabilize the signal. Lucas watches intently as the data begins to resolve, showing a series of encrypted transmissions. It's coming from the star system we were heading toward, Sarah continues, her hands shaking slightly. It looks like a distress signal? Lucas nods slowly, his mind racing. That's our way out, he says quietly. We need to investigate, now. The crew exchanges glances, their expressions a mix of fear and anticipation. They don't know what they're walking into, but they have no choice. Set a course, Lucas commands, his voice firm. We go in. The spacecraft hums steadily as it moves toward the star system, the faint signal growing stronger as they approach. Lucas watches the readouts, his mind racing with the possibilities. What if it's a trap? Sarah asks quietly, her voice filled with unease. Lucas doesn't answer immediately. Then we'll deal with it, he says, his voice low but determined. The crew is on edge, knowing that whatever lies ahead could change everything. They don't know what they're walking into, but they know they can't turn back. The uncertainty in the air is palpable, but Lucas keeps his focus. We stay together, no matter what happens, he says. And we don't stop until we know what's going on. The crew nods, each of them steeling themselves for whatever comes next. The ship continues to move forward, the light from the distant star system growing brighter. The ship continues to drift toward the unknown, its engine silent now, only the faint hum of the failing systems keeping them tethered to reality. Lucas stands by the control panel, his mind heavy with the weight of their situation. We've come this far, he mutters to himself, barely audible. His eyes flicker over the readouts, the last hope of finding any sign of life. But for how much longer? He whispers. The crew is silent, each one lost in their own thoughts. The quiet has become unbearable, each passing minute feeling like an eternity. We have to find something, Lucas says, louder now, as he turns to face his crew. A signal, a ship, anything. Sarah approaches, her face drawn and tired. We don't even know where we are anymore, Lucas, she says softly. How can we find anything? Lucas grips the console, his knuckles white. He knows she's right. They're trapped. But he refuses to give up. We'll find a way, he says, though the uncertainty in his voice betrays him. The crew watches him, waiting for a sign of hope. But the only thing that greets them is the cold, endless expanse of space. I think we've found something. Sarah's voice breaks the silence, and Lucas turns quickly to face her. She's standing at a secondary station, staring at a flashing screen. There's a faint signal, barely detectable. Lucas approaches her, his heart racing. What is it? He asks, his voice barely a whisper. I don't know, Sarah replies, uncertainty lacing her tone. But it's coming from a nearby star system. Lucas steps closer, his eyes scanning the data. Can we trace it? He asks, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside him. Sarah hesitates, her fingers moving rapidly over the console. It's weak, but yes, she says finally. We have a chance. Lucas looks at her, a sense of urgency building in him. Do it, he orders, and she complies. The rest of the crew watches in silence, the tension in the room palpable. As Sarah works, Lucas looks out the window once more, hoping for a sign, anything that might lead them out of the abyss. Sarah's hands move quickly over the console, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the display. The crew gathers around her, their eyes focused on the readouts. "I've pinpointed the source," Sarah says, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty. "It's a distress signal, no doubt about it." Lucas leans forward, his gaze fixed on the screen. "From where?" he asks urgently. Sarah hesitates, her finger hovering over the console. "It's from a ship," she says, her voice trembling slightly. "A ship that's been in distress for some time. The signal's weak, but we're close enough to reach it." Lucas exhales sharply, his mind racing. "We can't waste any time," he says, turning to the rest of the crew. "Prepare to navigate toward the source of the signal." As the crew scrambles to follow his orders, Lucas looks out the window once more, a flicker of hope igniting inside him. This could be their way out. "We're going to find them," he says, determination in his voice. "We're going to make it." The hum of the spacecraft intensifies as they approach the source of the distress signal. Lucas stands at the helm, his hands gripping the controls as he guides the ship closer. "We're almost there," he says, his voice tight with anticipation. The crew is silent, their focus unwavering. "We don't know what we'll find," Sarah says, her voice barely a whisper. "It could be dangerous." Lucas nods, his jaw clenched. "We're ready for anything," he says. The tension in the air is palpable, and the spacecraft vibrates slightly as it nears the source. "Prepare for docking," Lucas orders, his voice steady despite the fear that lingers just beneath the surface. "Whatever happens next, we face it together." The crew exchanges glances, their nerves evident, but they know they have no other choice. This could be their chance for survival, or their final moment. The spacecraft shakes slightly as it docks with the unknown ship, the air thick with tension. "We're inside," Lucas says, his voice steady but filled with a quiet sense of awe. "Everyone stay alert." The crew members gather their gear, preparing to board. Sarah looks at Lucas, her face a mixture of fear and curiosity. "What if it's too late?" she asks. Lucas looks at her, his face hardening. "Then we make sure it's not," he replies. The hatch opens, revealing the dimly lit interior of the ship. The atmosphere is heavy with the scent of age and dust, a sign that the ship has been abandoned for some time. "Stay close," Lucas orders, his voice low. The crew steps cautiously inside, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the silence. This is it, the moment that could change everything. Whatever happens, they're in it together. The crew enters the abandoned ship, its silence overwhelming. Lucas leads, focused, while Sarah questions what happened here. They venture deeper, finding signs of something terribly wrong. The unknown looms ahead, and there's no turning back. Sarah finds a recording device, activating it to reveal a garbled distress signal. One word stands out: help. The crew realizes the ship's crew was in danger, and Lucas decides they must investigate further. The crew listens to the signal again, understanding the severity of the situation. Lucas orders them to stay cautious, aware that this may be more dangerous than anticipated. They move forward, uncertainty growing. In the control room, Lucas activates the console, revealing a corrupted log. The anomaly is alive. The crew is shaken. Sarah feels something is wrong, and Lucas insists they must find out what happened. The ship's log reveals the anomaly's true nature. The crew is in grave danger, but Lucas is resolute. "We need to stop it," he says, despite the growing fear among the crew. The fight for survival has just begun.